Hello Internet, it's Dee. Pay no attention to this thing up here that's happening. I tend to fix up my hair after I've done my makeup, and so it's just kind of a big old pile of crap right now. We're just gonna push it out of the way because we just don't even want it up here to begin with. Ugh. That's not a good look. This is why I have bangs. Anyway. Today, I just wanted to do something relatively simple. What I want to show you today is how I do my base face. As in, like, how I just start my face off before I do anything else. Typically, for most of the videos I've been filming that are more focused on, like, doing the eye looks and, like, pairing it with lips, I kind of just throw on some makeup to start because it's the same thing every time, and that's boring, and I kind of don't want to have to sit through and edit that every time, let alone have everybody watch that every time. And I'm sure my camera doesn't either. So today I just want to show you how do I start off, because I am not wearing any makeup right now whatsoever. There's nothing going on here. I'm still kind of working to determine how to do that perfect, flawless makeup look of just perfect skin. And I mean, in a way, I think such a thing might not truly ever exist. We all know the secret behind a lot of photos is our good buddy Photoshop, but we can still get pretty good, I think. Now, of course, some of what's going to go into foundation and concealer and all that to make your skin look really nice is the product itself, but I've honestly been finding that like a good chunk of it isn't even that. It's actually just how you're preparing your skin before you put the makeup on. Beyond just any products you might need, step 1, exfoliate. Oh my gosh, exfoliate. I immediately noticed a huge difference in the quality of how my makeup looked and wore throughout the day when I started making an effort to exfoliate more. And I'm not talking about buying like real expensive snobby exfoliating things here. I literally just use a washcloth, with the kind of scrubby texture on it. That's it. Nothing fancy. Just that and soap. Now, you don't want to exfoliate every day. Like, don't try to just scrub your face off. That's no good either. I just tend to do it now really like every time I am in the shower, and then if I'm not in it that day, well, I don't exfoliate. But what this does is it's just like any little bit of dead, dry skin that's sitting on your face. I've used lots of different foundations. It doesn't seem to matter. They will find that dry spot. They will find those little flaky bits, and they will cling to it for dear life and make your skin look awful. So, step 1, before you even put anything on, get all that gross dry skin off. It makes your face feel so much nicer afterwards. So I did that earlier today. Step 2, moisturize that. So if you wash your face, and particularly if you exfoliate it, and then you dry it, it's gonna feel like it's about to crack off your face. At least it does me. Now, I do have somewhat dry skin, but even if you don't have dry skin, moisturizing is still important because what your body can do otherwise is overcompensate by creating like way more oil, because it's like, oh god, we're so dry! All the sebum forever! So I just get one of these old basic daily moisturizer creams. I look for the ones that have some sunscreen protection in them, mostly because I burn very easily. I get very crispy very quickly. But, I haven't tried enough different things and brands to recommend anything. Just like, this is just from the drugstore. It's not anything super fancy. Just, find what works for you. Find something for your skin type. Just make sure you're doing that. So I've already done that just because pretty much as soon as I step out of a shower and my face is dry, it feels like it's going to crack off if I don't immediately moisturize it. So that step is already done. Now, before you go on to the foundation, you're gonna want to make sure that your moisturizer has time to work itself in. So I'd say, if at all possible, wait about 10 minutes-ish after you've put your moisturizer on before you go in for like the whole makeup thing. And even then, if it's feeling still a little bit, lotiony or sticky, maybe just get like some tissue paper or something and like just kind of try to gently blot any excess off. Okay, are we on step 3? I shouldn't name the steps because I'm gonna immediately forget what number I'm on. We're on the next step. There's a lot of debate about foundation primers. Like, are they actually any good? Do they really do anything? Are they that helpful? And I don't know. I really don't. I've been experimenting on and off, and I don't actually know if there's really that much of a difference between when I use primer and when I don't. I will say though that on days where I just don't feel like putting foundation on, but I don't want my skin to look too funky, I do really like putting primer on my bare skin because I just feel like it helps even everything out. It takes away any excess shiny spots while also still helping to moisturize any dry spots and kind of blur away pores and stuff. So, it's up to you. I'm gonna put some on today just because I kind of feel like it. Now, there's a lot of different primers out there too, like based in different ingredients, and I'm not gonna go into that in this video because that could be like an entire thing all by itself. I personally, sorry, just shaking this up, I really actually like the silicone-based primers. A lot of people, I don't know, at least a lot of people I've been seeing on YouTube really don't. You know, it's just a preference thing. I really like the silky feel they give to my skin, and I just like how they look. So I just kind of dot a little on the back of my hand. This is probably like way too much. I'm not going to use all of this. It comes out fast though. And I'm just going to spread that on. I will say though, unlike just face lotions and face creams, if you get a moisturizing primer, you can immediately use foundation right after that, so if you're a person who's usually in a hurry, that might be a good thing. And yeah, you know, that's probably not even something that the camera can pick up on. I don't know, I think it just kind of smooths everything out, and I don't know, I at least like the way it feels on my skin, and I guess that counts for something, right? Okay, now we're actually ready to move on to foundation. Once again, the subject of foundation could be a whole long-winded video just by itself. There's so many different kinds, with so many different ingredients they're based off of, with so many different finishes, it overwhelms me, honestly. I've still just been going through and trying different things to just figure out what I like. Oh no, my cat hears me outside. She's very whiny. I don't know, foundation is like the most boring part of makeup for me because it is just the most utilitarian and like no fun. It's like buying pants for a guy or something. It's just like, you just have to go to different stores and try different things and see what actually fits and what doesn't, and oh, well this thing is, it's a thing you gotta do, but it's not fun. I buy a lot of makeup online, and of course, well, inherently the problem with that is that you can't swatch or try the product first. I mostly have turned to this route because every time I go into Ulta, they pretty much don't have anything in stock that is even remotely my shade anyway. Everything always is way too dark. So it kind of doesn't matter. Or like, you know, I might find something in my color, but ew, it's a bottle somebody already opened and tested. That's gross. I don't want to buy that. No thank you. So when in doubt, when I buy online, I tend to just, unless there's just one that's blatantly, clearly the best choice for my skin tone, I tend to just buy the two that I think look closest, and then I can just swatch them in person and try it. The two that I have right now are from a brand called Dermacol, and these are extremely high coverage foundations. They're actually initially made to be used in like film and photography and like that kind of thing. I really like super high coverage foundation, not because I want to cake it on and look like I'm wearing a mask. I don't think that looks good at all, but no, rather because if there's a lot of pigment in there to begin with, you yourself are in more control of how much coverage you get. Versus something that has relatively low pigment and you have to like really build it up to get some coverage, and that can start looking funky on the skin after a few layers. I'd rather just have something that even with one layer just covers and looks good. And if I need extra coverage in certain areas, it doesn't take much to build it up. So that's why I'm trying this. Overall, I've liked it mostly so far. Well, I'll show you here. I bought two different shades because I couldn't quite tell from the website which one would be better. So today I think I'm gonna mix the two because I feel like when I use them alone, this one's just a tad too light and then this one's just a tad too dark. If you're curious, the shades I'm using are a bunch of numbers on the back. Okay, I think this is 208 and this is 210. The one thing I don't like is the packaging in these metal tubes because like a whole bunch of product comes out and this stuff is so pigmented that I will not need nearly that much. Like these look like small tubes, but you don't put much on. Like I need like not that much please, no thank you. Well, probably not even that much because I'm gonna mix it. Oh good grief. Oh, it's everywhere. Alright, so there's my two colors on my hand, and Yeah, that's gonna be way too much. They just kind of volunteered themselves. But let's mix. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to just have some on my finger to start. I'm not gonna blend it in with my fingers, but it's already on my fingers from being mixed. I might as well use the product. I'm gonna dot it on the areas in particular that I want a little bit heavier coverage. So it's like I got this funky spot on my chin right now. There's some discoloration on my nose. I have some stuff right here. I have this annoying weird little veiny spot right here. Don't want that showing. There's some kind of stuff over here. Got some redness on my cheeks a little bit. Get some stuff in the cracks of my nose there. You know, my forehead's looking actually pretty nice today. Not that I ever really put much product there because I'm just gonna put my bangs over it. Got a little spot down there. And maybe just a little bit on my temples to hide the veininess that's there. Not really concentrating on my under eye right now because I'm more focused on concealer for that, which we will get to later. So now I'm gonna take my sponge. This is one of those fancy soft blending sponges, but you know what? If you got the classic little wedge critters here, those are great too. I'm experimenting with the difference between using a wet versus dry sponge, or I guess more a damp versus dry sponge. This guy's damp right now just because he needed washing anyway, so I'm curious to see how this will blend in. You can also use a brush, a good foundation brush, to just blend it all in. I don't have one of those right now. It's like I have some, but when I've tried them, I just haven't really liked it. But, you know, that's a totally valid thing to do. Or you can just get in there with your hands. You know what? I'm not the boss of you. You do what you want. I'm gonna pick up a little bit of extra product on here and then kind of dab off the excess so there's just a little bit on, but not like dripping with foundation here. And I'm just kind of lightly running that around. Just mostly going to blend in the places where I put it on more heavily, and then just give a really light sheer coverage to the areas that I didn't dot any on, so that ideally it should all even out. I do take it down my neck a little bit just to help blend everything. Oh, my poor kitty, she's so upset. I didn't invite her into film. So yeah, for example, I'm not really putting any extra product up here. I'm just sort of blending up what's already on my sponge onto my forehead because I don't really want a bunch of product up there. And now I just go in for a bit of round 2, where once again, I'm just going to take a little on my finger and just, where do I still need a little bit more coverage? I got a little spot there I want more covered, and get a little bit more on that. And yeah, just maybe a little bit more right up here. And now I'm not going to move it around so much, and more just sort of dab it in, blot it in. This particular foundation does not set by itself because it's not water-based. Most water-based foundations will dry down and set themselves. This one doesn't. It's cream-based, so that means I do have to powder it or it will just smear off. Yeah, that's how much is still left on hand. It really does not take much of this to cover your whole face because it's pretty intense. Now let's move on to concealer. I have, once again, 2 different shades of concealer, both A, because I bought these online, but B, I like having multiple shades of concealers because they I want a different color depending on where it is on my face. So I will take the darker of the 2. I can actually probably use even one more color of this if I wanted to be like really extra about it, but 2 is fine. And I'm going to concentrate this just kind of right in the eye area. And this is still pretty light because I want this area to still have kind of, you know, a light pop to it. I would not use this shade for trying to conceal like zits or something because it would actually make them stand out more. Oops. And yeah, I'm not putting like a ton of product there. I just want a little bit. And then I like to start blending it in with just my fingers. Personal preference. And then kind of have the sponge to just sort of even that out. Now, I'm not too bad today, but if you do get some of those real more purpley under eye circles, the best thing I've been able to use for that is if you take if you have one of these color corrector palettes, you don't have to have like all these colors. You just really need this shade, this kind of pinky peach. So sometimes I'll just take a little bit of that and stick it really right in the inner corner here. Cat. And that can help kind of just brighten up your eyes and cover up those dark bits. Squigs, hey. What? She's so mad I'm not paying attention to her. Okay, well, I went and distracted my cat for a bit, and I went ahead and also did my eyebrows because I forgot to do those to start. I usually do those at the beginning, but I was just so distracted by wanting to talk about foundations that I forgot. But here they are. My eyebrows have returned. So, we got our foundation. We got our concealer. Now I gotta set it. You don't have to set every foundation, but as I mentioned before, this is a cream-based foundation, which means I do have to set it with powder or it just doesn't set at all. And you know, when it comes to face powders, still haven't actually found a good one I like. Yeah, still looking. Now granted, I've only tried about 3 so far, so it's not like I've, been doing this for years and years. I don't know, each one I have has some pros and cons to it, and I'll talk about them now. I don't really differentiate much between pressed and loose powders. It's a powder. It's just what form is it in when you get it. That's really the only difference it makes to me. The 3 I have right now is I have the NYX HD Finishing Powder, and this is a pressed powder. And this one's pretty good. It's probably the one I go to the most out of the ones I have at the moment. The problem with anything that says HD powder on it is that they are silicone based. Unlike the primers earlier, when it's a powder like this, silicone creates a thing called flashback under bright lights and specifically flash photography, which makes you look real weird. Now, if you are intending to go to a place where you do not intend for there to be any sort of flash photography or bright lights in your face, you're probably going to be fine with these and they'll look really nice because that silicone does have this kind of nice just blurring effect. But if you take a flash picture with them, you don't look so good. This one here, the first ingredient is just talc. But the second one is dimethicone, and anything that ends in that, like, cone-own kind of thing is a type of silicone product. This is probably the one I'm going to go with today, but I'll show you the others I have too. I also have this Bare Minerals Mineral Veil, and unlike the others, this one actually does have a very slight tint to it. I mean, I think it's meant to be so light as to be transparent, but the problem I found with this one, and it's not a problem I exactly expected to have, like, I like the container, I like the little sifter thing in here. It's not as finely milled, honestly, as I'd prefer my face powders to be. So that's kind of a bummer. And also, despite how light this looks, there's some parts of me where it doesn't match my skin tone. And that looks kind of weird. It doesn't have flashback because this is actually cornstarch based. Yeah, despite being called Mineral Veil, it's, I mean, there's minerals in it, but the main ingredient is just cornstarch. When in doubt, if you actually really need to set your face, you can just use pure cornstarch. I've done that before. The only problem with that is sometimes is that it can leave a little bit of like a white finish, but mostly when I was doing it, I was dressing up as a vampire anyway, so who cared? The last powder I have here is this LA Girl Pro Powder HD High Definition Setting Powder. Once again, that tells you right there, it's gonna have the flashback, and this one, there's only one ingredient in this, and it's silica. So yeah, just pure silica. And oh man, does this stuff feel wonderful on the skin. It feels so soft and velvety, it feels beautiful, and it sets things beautifully. But since it is pure silica, it also creates even more flashback than this guy does. So I'm really torn. The other downside of it, and you'll probably see if I just even start to open it here, it is so finely milled. Whoa, yep, there it goes. That it gets into the air and almost looks like smoke. It just rises. You know, it doesn't feel real good to breathe. I don't particularly want my lungs full of silica. So yeah, this one has almost like the exact opposite problem of the Bare Minerals one. Ironic, isn't it? It's too finely milled and too light. That said, it does since it is so finely milled, it feels really, really nice. Particularly for setting my under eye, I don't think I've felt anything better than just this pure silica, but it also... it smells kind of funky. Pure silica has kind of a smell to it that is... what do I even want to call it? I don't know. It's not like a bad smell. It's not like, ugh. It's just, you know, I don't smell it after I've set my face, but as I'm powdering my face, like, and inevitably breathing it in, it's just weird, which is just not preferable, you know, compared to this pressed powder that's a mix of things that, yeah, pretty much doesn't really have much of a scent to it at all. But, you know, I've heard some good things about other powders out there. I just, you know, I tend not to want to buy a new product unless I've used up an old product first, unless I just really hate it. I'm trying not to be wasteful. So I'm just gonna set my face with this today. I'm just using like a big floofer brush here, swirling it in, making sure to double check and, oh, look, lost an eyelash. Kind of just blend out any creases in the concealer that have formed before I set it anywhere, and then dust it on. I actually usually do my lightest concealer on my eyelids right before I'm about to apply my eyeshadow officially, so I just kind of haven't bothered doing that yet. You know, I'm just kind of pretty generous with it. And then, particularly just for those more delicate under eye areas, I just pull off some product right onto my finger and just kind of dot it under there and rub that in. So I find it can get in there a little bit easier than the straight brush can. And don't worry, I'm going to dust that off. I'm just kind of getting it all in there to start. And I feel like what I've done is created a lot of texture kind of right here for some reason today. Don't know why exactly. I swear sometimes every day is different, even using the same products. I'm just like, why? Okay, so we have our base on. Problem, of course, with just this is that it's almost unnaturally uncolorful. By making all of my face one color, I made it, in essence, actually look kind of weird. Now, I don't contour or use bronzer every day or every time I wear makeup, but just to kind of show you what I do typically do, I'll go through it. Palette I use is this Lorac Pro palette. It's the first contouring palette I ever bought, and you can tell it's actually been pretty well loved. I've already hit pan on both the highlight shade and the light contour, so I've been trying to use more of the medium up. For doing contour and shading with, I tend to prefer either kind of a flat shader brush that's still pretty big and fluffy, or you can also go for an angled face brush that kind of has this angle like this. I'm going to go with this one today just because, I don't know, I've been liking it recently. So I dip in a little bit. I'm just going to use medium for today. I don't tend to use a lot. Just kind of dip it in nicely, tap off excess. I'm going to start by pretty much just, oh no, cat. So I'm going to look for the top of my ear here and then kind of lining that up with the corner of my mouth. That's kind of where I'm looking to put the color. So I start up here and move down. Keeping my brush almost a little bit higher than where I actually want the color to go, because typically the color falls down a little bit as I go. There we go, there it is. And then I just do these circular buffing motions to just sort of blend it all out. I don't like the stripe. I don't want the stripe. I just want a little extra shadow just to kind of, you know... Have you ever seen a computer model where it's just like the bare 3D model before any texture or skin, quote unquote, has been laid over it? And so like there's still 3D and like shadow, but it looks off. It just kind of looks plastic versus, you know, going in and adding some JPEG over the top of this 3D model to actually make it look more realistic. It's like that, but makeup. I'm probably the only person who would make an analogy like that. I don't know. I also like to come in and contour my chin and jawline. This is fairly optional. I just like to do it because I have a a pretty weak, wimpy little chin, and so it's really easy for it to kind of just disappear into my face down here. And so by taking this darker shade and running it along my jawline and under my chin, I can create the illusion that my jawline and chin is sharper than it really is, which I prefer. And I just kind of blend it all the way down into my neck a little bit. It helps my face stand out from against my neck, so they don't just all blend together. You know, if you already have a really sharp jawline, I wouldn't recommend doing this because you'll probably end up looking almost like too sharp and too defined. But for me, who's very soft and round in this area, I like it. I think it just makes my face stand out more and just look nicer. Oh, and I have to do my other cheek still. There we go. I just feel like that right there instantly adds more definition back to my skin. Now, if you feel like you got a lot of forehead, you can also contour. Here, I'll just do it for an example here. You can also just contour kind of lining of your forehead a bit, and it makes your forehead look a little bit smaller and more blended into your hairline. Well, if my hair would frickin' stay out of the way. Also, if you're a man and you have like a little bit of a receding hairline, shh, I won't tell. This really, really, really disguises it. Hey, makeup is for men too. Now, most days I don't actually bother doing this on my forehead because I'm just gonna have bangs over it anyway, but you get the idea. And wow, my bangs do not want to stay back right now. I don't know where any of my hair clips went. And finally, if I wanted to make my face look complete and just sort of ignore my eyes for the moment, I could add blush and highlight. Typically, I kind of tend to wait till after I've done my eyes to sort of determine what shade of blush I want to match with that. But you know what, for the sake of just trying some new stuff, I just opened this new blush the other day, and I kind of want to try it, see how it looks on me. I often just use the same brush as I was using for contour, just kind of clean it off between colors. I kind of want to just try it out, you know, see how pigmented it is. I tend to put that just right above the contour line. And I sort of blend them together a little bit. And then, you know, a little bit more on my squishy cheek bit. But yeah, I kind of like blush that's pulled like up, like back a little ways, and even sometimes up onto the temple a little bit. I think it looks cute. Just personal preference. You put it where you want. Well, that's a pretty nice shade. I can dig it. Sometimes if I'm feeling a little cutesy that day, I like to just take a little tiny bit of blush and put it kind of on the edge of my nose and like kind of on the under part. I don't know. I think it looks cute, but you know, I'm me. My tastes aren't exactly the most normal. And finally, I mean, I have a rainbow of highlighters, but just for this real simple basic skin look, I'm just going to use the highlighter that came in this palette. I'm going to use, I like a little bit of a smaller brush for that, so I'm going to use something more like this size. And just to compare it to the one I was using for the bronzer, there's kind of like a size comparison. Ooh, that highlighter's getting really crumbly. I think just the fact that I've hit pan on it, like, look how much I dusted off there. Woo! It wasn't like that before. Anyway, and then I just concentrate that on the high part of the cheek, kind of like right above the blush. You know, I kind of just keep in a very similar angle. Just, you know, contour, blush, highlight, just working my way up. Once again, pulling it maybe up around a little bit. This is like a really subtle highlight, so camera is probably not even going to pick it up that much, but you know, it gives a little bit of a sheen to the face, which just makes it look a little less, I don't know, like fake and cakey to me. I like to dust a little bit on my nose and a little bit on my chin and take a little bit directly onto my finger and concentrate it right on the top of my lip like that. And then once layered with lipstick, it kind of makes that area pop and look really cute, I think. Some people also put the highlight a little bit above their brow and kind of up onto their forehead. Like I said, I don't normally do that just because for the most part my bangs are going to be down and you're not going to see it. Wow, my hair is extra strange today. You know what? I'm going to go fix that right now. There we go. I unfloofed my hair so it looks much more reasonable now. Otherwise, all I did was I took a little bit of the same shade I used on the contour on my cheeks and put it on my eyelids and threw some mascara on. So getting my face done is often where I start, not where I finish, but you know, I'm not going anywhere tonight. So I just wanted to finish it off with a pretty basic look. Despite all the crazy makeup I do, don't let anyone tell you I can't just do a simple look. See? If I start a video and say I have my base face on, or it looks like my skin is already, you know, fairly even, but I haven't done anything else yet. Chances are that's probably what I would did, at least something very similar to this. This is at the very least my winter strategy. I might change things up and use more of a water-based foundation come summer again, but during the winter at least, the more heavier cream-based foundations feel fine to me. Not to mention I just keep getting drier skin, which I'm not used to. When I was growing up and for most of my 20s, I had like really greasy skin, and then like all of a sudden I hit like 26 or 27 and then like just dried up out of nowhere. Weird, right? Huh. But hopefully you could learn something from this, just kind of showing how I do this just sort of basic thing. And I mean, if I get out a mirror and I like really scrutinize, I can still find some things I don't like so much on this. But I think for the most part, on camera, it looks pretty good. And fact is, if you're going out, you probably are mostly worried about looking good if somebody does take a picture versus, you know, anyone actually getting close enough to your skin to really examine if they can see a pore or not. So I'm gonna call it good enough. Anyway, if you liked that video, hit the like button and subscribe and share and do the things. Follow me on the social medias. I've been unboxing the rest of that advent calendar I started in the last video in my Instagram story, so if you enjoyed that and want to see more things coming out of boxes, go there for that. So that's all for now. I will see you in the next video. Bye!